So instead of their first words being, what does it cost? They usually say, I've got a problem. I don't know how to solve it. I wonder if you can help. I think you can see immediately that a good salesperson with a consultative customer can create a lot of value. But with a transactional customer, the salesperson creates almost no value. Why is this such a problem? Well, the problem is that we've gone through a period where the customer population has split. If you go back just 3 to 5 years, a few customers were highly consultative and a few were viciously transactional. Let's assume that maybe 10% of customers were transactional and 10% were consultative. That's an arbitrary figure, but I use that just to give you an example. So, most sales forces were aimed at the average customer. The average customer would say, if you will give me a little help and advice, I'll give you a slightly better margin. That was the value proposition of 5 years ago. Well, what's happened since then is that the distribution looks like that. The middle has gone away. So many, many more customers are buying transactionally. Many want more depth than ever before. And the customer in the middle isn't there. But unfortunately, most sales forces are there. And the dilemma is face-to-face selling is too expensive to capture the transactional customers. Mostly it's not deep enough to get the consultative customers. And that's a very, very big problem. Because if the customer is buying on cost, the most expensive channel to the customer is face-to-face sales force. If you have a smart competitor who gets rid of their sales force and sells on the internet, if most of their customers are transactional, internet telesales, cheaper distribution, they'll lower their costs, lower their prices, they'll take your business. So, transactional customers don't want salespeople. And unfortunately, so many salespeople are talking brochures. They've been brought up to believe that their job is to show the customer our mousetrap is better than their mousetrap. In a world where the customer doesn't believe that. And we've all seen how marketing departments have been struggling to take the tiniest differentiation and make it look as though it's important. But increasingly, customers are cynical. And transactional customers who are very price-driven are the most cynical of all. And even more unfortunately, more than 1/3 of the average sales force are these talking brochures who go to the customer and say, hey, let me tell you about what a great mousetrap you've got. Now, one day somebody is going to write a history of selling. And there'll be a whole chapter to something that happened in 2006. Before that, Walmart, as the biggest retailer in the world, in Bentonville, Arkansas, had a huge purchasing apparatus, 3,800 people in the purchasing department. Now, they carried out a study of productivity, and they found that more than 75% of the cost of running this huge purchasing department was being used to acquire products that created less than 5% of the profit. And they said, it's costing us more to buy than the margin on the product. We can't do this. And they said, we have to be more productive. The average purchasing agent in Walmart was seeing 6.8 salespeople a day. Very productive. Very, very few purchasing functions are that productive. So they couldn't change that. But the average purchasing agent could visit 80 websites in a day and place orders. So Walmart asked, why do we need talking brochures to come at our expense to tell us about their products? We can find that out on the net much faster and more conveniently. Now that's the first time in history that I know of a company which has worried about the cost of receiving salespeople. Well, for 40 years, there's been a vast literature and studies about the cost of making sales calls. This is the first time I know of a company saying we're not going to accept the cost of receiving sales calls. So they cut their purchasing department in half, something which has been copied by organizations like, for example, John Deere. And they wrote to 60% of their vendors and said, don't knock on our door because there's nobody behind it. We'll still do business with you, but we'll do it over the internet. Oh, by the way, now we've saved you the cost of sending us salespeople, we want a bigger discount. See, these are the kinds of things that worry sales VPs. So, when you have a sales force with a lot of talking brochures, that's really bad news, because they're creating very little customer value nowadays, because customers have better, more convenient sources of information. And yet they believe they're doing their job. And there's always a time lag. Those of us who struggle to take people away from product-centered concepts of selling towards much more solution and customer-centered things know how hard that was. This is just as hard a transition. So then we move to the third item here, the hybrid sales force. I'll give you a station break. A hybrid sales force is where salespeople are chasing some transactional opportunities and some consultative opportunities. In fact, the average sales force is made up like